What was it like to be in kind of Astros Central down there up there at the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I mean, when we first got there, we got there Thursday night, and then we were walking around Friday, and I was with Richard Justice, and of course he's, very well known because he does a lot of national TV work on MLB Network. So a lot of people were coming up to him, and we were just meeting so many Astros fans, and then we just realized we're looking around, and I estimated it at like 60% early on, just because I thought it would be kind of a little bit. It just seemed to be a stretch to think that there were like more than that actually were Astros fans, because they're wearing the orange, and so it stands out more than like the Brave colors do. But after a while, I'm like, this place is all Astros fans. I mean, it's everywhere you looked. It was just people in Astros gear, and I recorded the ceremony because I wanted to I didn't get to see like the lawn area with all the fans. And I sensed that was more 50-50 because people that were there for Pedro Martinez, largely from Boston, people just, the Bostonians just had to drive in that day. But for the most part, it was amazing. I mean, I expected there to be a decent amount because, of course, Biggio is the first Hall of Famer and maybe the only one for a while. A guy who was drafted by the organization just means so much to people. But it was just crazy. I mean, I went into the gift shop at the Hall of Fame by Saturday. Like, they have, just their general merchandise, but then they also have things specific to the guys that are getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. They had, like, a kiosk of Martinez and Smoltz and Johnson, and Biggio's was completely sold out of everything, of all the coins, the pins, the T-shirts. Everybody else's were still, they still had things in stock. So things just completely sold out, and that was just so telling, and people were just very impressed with how many Astros fans came out. It was just amazing.
You wrote about fans from Houston that drove 25 straight hours to get to the Cooperstown for this weekend. Tell that story. That's a great story.
Yeah, so there's this bar in the heart of Cooperstown called Cooley's, and it just kind of became like an Astros headquarters. They were able to get the Astros games on TV, so a lot of Astros fans just kind of congregated there. And so being there, it was just like basically just wall-to-wall people from Houston. And some fans came up to us, with Brian McIver, Richard Justice, so people were, kind of coming up and introducing themselves and chatting and taking pictures. We're taking all these selfies. It was hilarious. And I just started talking to these people, and they're like, yeah, we just, we wanted to come up just for the induction, and we have to work on Tuesday, so we just kind of drove straight through. We're going to go to the induction, and then we're going to drive back. And then after a while, I said, wait a minute. Wait, you drove up on Friday, and you didn't stop overnight, and you just got here. Like, yeah, we just got here. It was in the evening. It was on Saturday after the parade. And then they were going to be there staying in like Binghamton, which is far from Cooperstown, Saturday night, going to the ceremony on Sunday and then heading back and driving. So it's 24 hours up, 24 hours in Cooperstown, 24 hours back. And, I said, I think I need to write a story about this. So we stepped outside, and I turned on my little video thing on my phone, and we did an interview. And they were just, they were a little tired, but they're like, this is, once in a lifetime experience. Biggio means just everything to them as baseball fans and Astros fans. When are they going to have a chance to do this again? If you don't take advantage of going to see him now, you're not going to. It's not like there's going to be another induction. And they were feeling a little, one of the guys said, about halfway through the trip up here, I'm like, oh my God, I'm really kind of dreading thinking about the trip back. But they had to work on Tuesday. I had to work Tuesday morning. So they said, we're going to get home at in the wee hours Tuesday morning around midnight, 1 o'clock. And we got to be at work at 8. So we'll just suck it up. And they had a wonderful time, and it was pretty awesome. I really commend them.
What was your favorite moment from Biggio's speech?
For any of us who know Matt Galante and love Matt Galante, and that's pretty much anybody who knows him, Matt was the longtime coach in the Astros system for years and years on a major league level and AAA. So I'd say he probably was in the organization for about 40 years. And he converted Biggio into from the catcher to second baseman, and it was hours and hours every day before, the wee hours before spring training workouts started. And then right before the game, they'd just be on the backfield and working, and basically had Biggio not made the move to second base, then he wouldn't have had a very long career, and he wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, and he knows that. So he's really credited Matty for everything that has ever good that's ever happened to him in his career. And so, singling him out, telling him to stand up, it was just a really, happy moment for any of us who know him. And just watching him standing there, like I've been watching these Hall of Fame ceremonies since I can remember. Of course, I watch him on TV. I love him. I listen to every speech, and I'm sitting there, and there's Craig. Like, there's an Astro up there. And there's so many Astros fans there. There were so many people from his life, from his, people that worked for the organization that made a lot of former players, a lot of former employees, GMs, managers. I mean, it was like a big reunion. Just having him show his appreciation for a lot of the people and, of course, his family, it was just very cool.
Alyson, I wanted to ask you about Dr. John McMullen, because he was somebody that Biggio mentioned in his speech and said he was a father figure. And a lot of people in Houston look at him as an enemy. I thought that was interesting that he made a special point about Dr. John McMullen and then also Drayton McLane. Can you kind of describe these two owners that Biggio had during his career?
Yeah, well, John McMullen was obviously the owner when he was drafted, and I believe that he and Yogi Berra actually went to watch him play when they were scouting him and deciding who they were going to pick for their number one pick that year in the draft, 1987. They were both from the Northeast. They had that bond. From a fan standpoint, McMullen will always be remembered as the guy who would sign Nolan Ryan and let Nolan Ryan go. And I know I was way before my time, but extremely dark time for the organization. And so that's what sticks in fans' minds. The people who play baseball, who work within the industry, who work within the organization, it's not like black and white. It's not that definitive. So he was a very good friend to Craig. He was a very good mentor. He trusted him enough to draft him and watched him, through the early stages of his career. But they did have that bond from being from the Northeast, and he was a pallbearer at McMullen's funeral. And then with Drayton, he bought the team in 92, so Craig was only 5 years into his career at that point. So he and Drayton were together for the rest of the time. And it's funny because the contract negotiations got very contentious later on in Biggio's career, in that Craig was asked to move to center field. It was not as smooth as I think the public might think it was. It was a very tough time for everybody. But there were times that Craig was mad at Drayton. There were times Drayton was mad at Craig, but they had a common goal, and the common goal was to keep Craig in an Astros uniform for the rest of his career and to have Craig stay on the team long enough to get 3,000 hits. And to be honest with you, I would say that in an honest moment, the general managers did not have that same feeling. Toward the end of Craig's career, it would have probably been a little bit better for the team had he not been the starting second baseman, but that was not anything that Drayton was willing to consider. And so Craig does owe him a heck of a lot, and I'm glad that Drayton was there. I'm glad that Craig, singled him out and thanked him because, Drayton made all of this happen.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.